post 2020, I feel like the answer was, oh, let's let him in the room. But are you really letting this young Black woman, this young Black man, young Black people, are you letting these people actually touch the thing, make the thing, shape the culture? Are you actually letting them do the thing you hired them for?
Welcome to another episode of the Brown and Black podcast. My name is Jack Rico.
And I'm Mike Sargent.
And every week we take a look at race and pop culture through a brown and black lens. Our guest today is journalist and filmmaker Mark Anthony Green. And if you have not heard of him, you're gonna hear of him in the future. His directorial debut is called Opus, and it was a Sundance hit. It has an incredible cast, and it hits theaters March 14th, and it's from A24. Not a lot of Black young directors, Mike, get to work for A24. And it's a psychological thriller that really is not something that is traditional or conventional in any way.
There's a rumor flying around that Moretti's back. Like, Moretti?
After 30 years outside the public eye, pop icon Moretti returns for an exclusive listening experience.
He's bringing you a gift.
This is for Ayo Edebiri.
Basically, it's about an ambitious writer who's somewhat overlooked by her peers. Her name is Ariel, and it's played by Ayo Edebiri. And she gets invited to this iconic star's return. He was the top star, biggest pop star on the planet. His name was Moretti, and he's played by John Malkovich. And he's been missing for 30 years. So it's a comedy, it's a thriller, it's a horror movie, it's a blend of genres, but the things he has to say are pretty serious.
This is why I wanted to talk to Mark Anthony Green today. He's the writer, director, producer of this. He's an auteur, and he is someone who has a vision, who has a sense of originality in a world where everything seems cliche and just trite. Nothing feels original anymore. There's a lot of originality here, that Black originality that he talks about. And for me, perhaps the thing that stands out most about Mark Anthony is that he used to be a fashion journalist that used to write for GQ magazine, one of my favorite magazines. And he was an intern there, worked his way up
To becoming the special projects editor.
and then all of a sudden he's making a movie. And you know the way the system is set up. If you listen to this podcast, you have to walk in knowing that there's a whole system against us. That's the lens of this show. So anybody that comes in is somebody who should be celebrated because they've achieved something that the system doesn't or isn't designed for them to do.
I agree. And part of the reason I was excited to talk to him is because here's a man who has covered celebrity style, fashion, all the things that influence culture. And he's made a movie about someone who's confronted with those things, someone who is interviewing someone who is the biggest celebrity ever was. And seeing his movie, we had to talk to him.
Absolutely. This is a movie about the seduction of validation, Mike. There was so much of that going around. And to me, movies and television shows and anything that we consume, it's a reflection of who we are because it's made by us, for us.
The themes that stood out to me is, what is it like to be a Black person or a person of color walking into these primarily white and possibly weird spaces, and you question things that nobody else does, noticing things that nobody else does because it wouldn't even occur to them. I enjoyed having a film that has the perspective, because this is a woman, a young Black woman who's entering into this arena. For me, it was really that, among all the other things it had to say about how we overlook the insanity sometimes that a celebrity may create in what's around them.
It'll be an absolute honor to spend this weekend with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, namaste. Everybody, meet Ariel, some young blood from the magazine. This is Clara, the most hated sex symbol on TV.
Thank you. How's print media treating you?
Oh.
Congratulations, and welcome to this once-in-a-lifetime gathering.
Meridian requires that everyone be shaven. So, how's the lady garden?
Mark, congratulations on your debut film, Opus, which feels like an opus, man. A new chapter as a filmmaker, producer, screenwriter. It's not every day that someone gets to make a movie.
Yes.
Especially for a Black young brother.
Yeah.
That is almost rare and impossible. And you're like a unicorn. So applause, Mike. Let's give it up for Mark Anthony Green for making a movie. That in itself should be celebrated. And when you put that number against white directors and the culture of nepotism, our numbers are even lower, just like representation with Hispanics. 20% of the population, less than 6% of the representation.
Yeah. This is also just me trying to make it, I got to make it less about me so that I don't like sprint away from this pod. But not only am I proud that the film got made, but I'm proud of how it got made. I'm proud that it stars a young Black woman, a character who never does something stupid. She's brilliant, but flawed because she's a character in a film, but she never falls when the boogeyman's chasing her. I'm proud that I have a Black DP that shot this film with me, Tommy Maddox Upshaw, who shot Snowfall. I'm proud that Dream and Nile Rodgers made songs that John Malkovich sang.
Crazy.
I'm proud that it starts off with the George Clinton song and it ends with the TV on a radio song. I'm proud that there is so much Blackness and originality and Black originality in this film, but it's not a film about racism. We're in it now. I know this is like first 30 seconds in the pod. Fuck it, we're here. But so what is classified as a Black movie is like, is this a movie about racism? And as y'all know and talk about all the time, like Blackness isn't just about racism. We carry Blackness in everything that we do. I'm a graduate of Morehouse College. Everybody there is basically between the ages of 18 and 22, Black men and American. And it's the most diverse place I've ever been.
Interesting.
Blackness is so diverse. The Black experience is so diverse. And I give a tremendous amount of credit to A24, to every actor, to my incredible crew for collaborating with me and allowing me to make this film in this way that I think is challenging to some because of the originality and because it doesn't start off with, spoiler alert, somebody doesn't die in the first 5 minutes.
Like every other stereotype.
Yeah, but you go to work with this young Black girl. Yeah. And then you go on a date with her. And then you go to her house. And she takes you through this story. And then I promise the film is extremely fun. You go on this wild ride, but how amazing is it that this film exists in that way? And I'm deeply proud of that. And I really hope that we go out and see this film and that we are equally as proud.
This movie is so philosophically layered.
Yeah.
But it cuts. It cuts.
Thank you.
And those cuts affect Hispanic and Black critics differently than a white critic.
Yes.
These movies mean something else to us that never get covered in the Times, that never get covered in the mainstream media, because those people don't live the experience we see. The fact that Stan, the music editor, sees her but doesn't validate her.
Yeah.
Every Latino Black person that's been in that position, prepared, maybe overqualified, still gets the shackle. There's all these things that the movie isn't necessarily focusing on. It's just part of the story, but it cuts.
Yeah.
How does that relate to you and your experiences as a Black director within positions of power in white spaces?
Mike, I might have to take him with me to intro the film. I know you did. But I'm honored by that. There's a thing you were talking about that I think is really interesting as a way into the answer to that question of, so Ariel's in the room that she wants to be in. She's in the room
where it happens,
but she's not getting the opportunity. And especially post 2020, I feel like the answer was, oh, let's let him in the room. But are you really letting this young Black woman, this young Black man, young Black people, are you letting these people actually touch the thing, make the thing, shape the culture? Are you letting them exercise their talent? Are you actually letting them do the thing you hired them for? And, or are they just in the room? Opus is not a film about racism, but the dynamics that exist, what has been like so exciting to me, and I do think that there are some people where this is just simply lost on, like they look at a scene like that and they see themselves as the bad guy. And that doesn't make them feel good. And you see a scene like that and you see yourself as somebody that has sat in that seat. And I know that feeling. And it doesn't make you feel good either. It might make you feel seen, but I think your interpretation is that, oh, this is valuable and this is art. And I know how this character feels. And to some people, I do think that feels like it doesn't register. So then it feels like maybe, oh, I've seen this before, and they insert something else. This film comes out March 14th. I spent 6 years of my life with this being not only my primary focus, but I wear my heart on my sleeve. This has been the honor of a lifetime. I can't wait to make the next one. I am fully dedicated to being the best filmmaker that I can be. I will spend the rest of my time getting as good at this craft as possible. And I'm so deeply proud of this film. And it is time for me to let people experience it however they want to experience it. So I don't want to delegitimize other people's experience with this film and how they take it. But it means something so special to me in these conversations. And I'm in Atlanta right now, where I went to college, and I've been talking to people all day, and a lot of Black folks all day. And their reaction to the film is so deeply personal. It's a different conversation.
Yeah.
It feels like I think that tribalism is a global pandemic, and I made this film to hopefully have a global conversation. It will release in a theater in almost every country, which I'm very grateful for. But the conversation amongst your peers and Black folks and people that look like you, people that went to your college, that stayed in your dorm, that stayed in the dorm that you stayed in, when they find something in that feels personal to them, man, it makes you feel so, I'm just deeply grateful. And I'm so proud of the decisions and the battles that I fought. And yeah, this is really special to me.
To touch upon a couple of things that you said and that Jack said, I felt the same way. Within the first 3 minutes, you had me, because I meet this character who's not being appreciated because of her status. And if you're a person of color and you're treated a certain way, you always wonder, is it because of who I am or because of what I look like?
Yeah.
You're always thinking that. But to me, what I really love about this movie is because it is about so many things, and you clearly put a lot of thought into this. I think even the name Ariel, where this is an Ariel who yearns to leave a sea of obscurity and walk in the land of relevance.
Yeah,
And
man.
I like that part of
Yeah.
the message. And the message is almost be careful what you ask for,
Yeah.
without giving away the movie. So one of the things I think that changed with Get Out for horror movies specifically is it reminded writers, I think, and audiences that genre, whether it's comedy, science fiction, horror, has the ability to talk about things without hitting you over the head. Okay,
Yes.
where you're disarmed because of the genre, but these things are being spoken about. So I want to know, for you, from the notes, it said you always conceive this as a horror movie. What are your thoughts about what you can do with genre that you can't maybe do in a straight drama?
Yeah, to me, Jordan Peele is like Steph Curry of cinema. Like I volunteered and I coached boys basketball when I lived in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I coached for 13 years every year I was there. And I remember life before Steph Curry, during, and then after. And Steph is one of the best basketball players on the planet. Y'all can argue with whoever you want to argue with, but Steph is one of the greats. He
Right.
is an all-timer, a top whatever. But playing the game like Steph, there are so many bad imitations. There are so many kids shooting from half court when they can't dribble with their left hand because
Mhm.
it's so fun and it's exciting. And I think Jordan did the exact same thing. He made it look so easy that then there was all of these films that came out and they were genre films, but where Jordan balanced masterfully humor, nuance of Black experience, and the thing that he was trying to say while fully delivering on the horror aspect of it. That is so hard. There was like all of these movies that popped up. A lot of them, I think we all felt unsatisfied by, right? Genre traditionally, especially horror, has always been very kind to Black filmmakers. You could go through the list of the history of sneaking in these messages, and part of that is like a logistical thing. Horror films have a built-in fan base that love the genre. So if you're a studio, you're less skittish about this Black lead because I know you're going to murder some people, and if a lot of them are just looking at, is this movie going to make me money? If I spend $5 million on this movie, can I make 20? And so you get way more freedom in that, which is why it's such an amazing tool. I think what Jordan has been able to do with his 3 films, they, to me, feel post-genre, especially Nope. What is Nope? It's science fiction. It's such a large-scale film.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Hoyte shot the fuck out of that film. It is so deeply textual. I think Daniel Kaluuya is one of the best actors alive. Keke Palmer is one of the best actors, winning personalities alive.
One of the most talented people, period.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I just think what Jordan does, you can't shoot like Steph Curry. I don't think that there's a single ball player on the planet that should take every shot that Steph would take. And that's just how singular his talent is in that arena. And that's how I look at Jordan. I hold him in a very rarefied air.
One of the big themes that stood out to me about this movie in particular, because of my own experiences and how I imprint them on the movie, of course, because I've always felt that the work of the creator, the art form, the fully finished thing is not his to own.
Yeah, nah.
It's for us to interact with, then creating the art with the artist, ultimately. This is also a theme about the entertainment journalism industry.
Yeah.
And art and how it's been corrupted through commerce and the relationship that has blurred in the last maybe 5 to 10 years. And you can speak to this as a journalist yourself. What has happened to the entertainment industry? Because there was a part of Ariel's persona that was caught up in it.
Yeah.
She could not have been biased. It is damn hard to be biased when you got Tom Cruise in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here is the black woman challenging the white pop star man.
Yeah.
She was the only woman, the only person in the whole movie that questioned. And every time I saw her question John Malkovich's Moretti's character, she was questioning the system, challenging the system. She was the act of defiance in the movie.
I think
She
that's
was
what
the
got
act
me
of rebellion.
That's what got me in so much trouble. which I'm deeply proud of. I think that your observation is not only like really astute, but right. But I also want to defend a certain type of entertainment journalist.
Correct.
In a world where celebrity is become more valuable, if the influencer holds a true monetizable power, and that's just the person that people follow on a social media app, then the celebrity that also has that, but also can get my dad to go to a movie and get my mom to buy a perfume or whatever. So celebrities have gotten more valuable, not in like a actual way. I'm not saying that this is how I feel, but they become more valuable in a monetizable way, in a cultural way, in an industrial way. Outlets, magazines, newspapers are fighting for funding. They're fighting for eyeballs and subscriptions. And that to me is sad. If I were a dictator of the world, I would governmentally fund so many magazines and so many radio stations and grants for investigators and writers and journalists, because I think it's such an important enterprise to culture, to speaking truth to power, to ending paranoia and clear communication and things like COVID, where like I need to know the truth and I need to make educated decisions for my family, and I can't go get that. That is your job to give that to me. These people are heroes and they should be supported. And so when that happens, the power dynamic shifts so drastically, which is what has happened in the last 10 years, when you have picked a side and the human being that you are riding out with can do no wrong. And if someone is critical, if Jack is critical of that person, then he can do no right. And now it is my guy versus your guy, my side versus your side. No longer even having a conversation. And things feel so divided right now. That's my problem. And as an artist, I don't have the answers, and I don't posture to pretend that I have the answers. I set out to make something that was provocative enough to make people like y'all that are smart ask the right questions, and then and us have a conversation and have those answers. And it is my time to give away Opus forever, and I'm excited about it. But I hope no one takes it as like anti-journalism.
Well, I didn't see it as anti-journalism, but I do think, to Jack's point, that you may think you're immune to the allure of celebrity, but you're not immune to being part of the ecosystem of celebrity. And like you said, there is this ultimate commodification of celebrity. But something else, one of the themes I thought you touched upon and I wanted your thoughts on is, I think that in our society, the only people who are really allowed to have an ego are artists. If you're beautiful or if you're handsome or if you're rich and you're egotistical, people resent you. But if you're an artist, you can get away with it.
Or the president.
Or the president. Well, you know,
Right.
or the president. Yeah, okay. But to that point, I wanted your thoughts on that and why Do you feel that so many successful people in our society are sociopathic?
Yeah, well, sociopathic and narcissistic are different things.
True.
I think sociopathic in a colloquial sense, not in a medical sense, but in a colloquial sense, we often use that word to be like, you are obsessed, you are intense, you are
Toxic.
yeah, like you have an unhealthy relationship, fascination, dedication to this thing you're making.
Mm-hmm.
If I acted like I don't have a lot of those obsessive, overly dedicated to a point of like being a bad friend, missing birthdays, not eating, not sleeping, focused on the thing that you're making. I'm guilty of that. So I'm in no position to like wag my finger at anyone because of that. I think narcissism, which is, I think, half of what you're touching on, rightfully so. I think we allow artists to be narcissistic and confident and to have egos, but we do not allow celebrities to. And so when you're receiving someone as an artist, you're okay with it. But it could be the exact same person in the exact same interview. And now we're receiving them as a celebrity. And we are very anti that, which I think is a healthy check and balance, being anti narcissism. But entertainers in particular, it's tough to know when they're entertaining and when they're being honest. I used to always joke with people that I interviewed that they were at work, and nobody's the same when they're at work. Like right now, the three of us, we're at work. This is how we all put food on the table. And if you're listening to this, you are not the exact same person at your job as you are at home. So do I think when Muhammad Ali, a human that I truly idol, he's a Moretti to me. If Muhammad Ali was alive and he called me, I would go to the compound. If Muhammad Ali, when he had a camera in front of him, when he had a microphone in front of him, did he say that he was the prettiest, that he was the greatest? Absolutely. And did he believe that? I'm sure he did. Also, when he was home and they took all his money and he was living on a friend's couch in Harlem and didn't have his belt and was on the second divorce and was getting chubby and had the imposter syndrome and the doubt and the weight of the world on his shoulders, do I think he looked in the mirror and thought, I'm the greatest? No. I think he's very human in that moment. To specifically answer your question, I think that part of the reason we accept it more with artists is we don't know, we're accepting the entertainment. And that is the public handshake agreement, right? When somebody's like too humble or too honest, it stops being entertaining. I think the posture that a lot of artists take is like, what would be entertaining? And I think that we receive that openly because that's the deal.
One of probably the most insightful moments of the movie came towards the end in a conversation that Moretti, played by John Malkovich, was having with Ayo, with Ariel. And it was one of the more climactic scenes. I love the narrative of this story. He talks about leadership. He talks about how leadership initially for a primitive man was all about brute strength. And he points to his bicep.
Yeah.
And then he moves on and he goes, but then it changed, it evolved. And then it became left brain.
Yes.
Then he offered a third evolution.
Yeah.
And I've never heard of this before.
Thank you.
Where did that idea spark from?
I'll say this. Nothing feels better than killing myself making this movie. Knowing how difficult it is to make something like this, to make something Black, to make something original, all the things. Make any movie. Every movie's a miracle. But when it genuinely lands with somebody that you respect, there's no better feeling in the world. Thank y'all for making me feel so special. And if you're listening to this, I really hope that you find something great in this film that means something to you. That end moment, I don't want to say too much away because all of the fun, the rides, the dancing, the eerie moments, the gory, all of the fun, all of the things that I want you to come to the movie theater for, they build to that. So what I will say is not only does Moretti, John Malkovich's character, present an alternative, an original alternative to leadership, I would just argue, does either side, any side, feel like things are great? And if you don't, and things have been going in the wrong direction, should we not audit how we select these people? What we value in these people? What does leadership and a good leader even mean? And I promise you, this is one of the most fun experiences you will have at the movies in a long time. This movie is not homework.
No way, man.
Yeah, but like it cuts that feeling, that thing. To me, it's so important. And we have such an amazing opportunity after this film to talk about what really works and what doesn't, and what could work and what should be prioritized, and what would make the world more thoughtful for poor people and lower income people, middle class people, Black people, women, queer people. And so the film in no way, shape, or form attempts or postures like it solves the world's problem. Again, that I don't believe that to be my job, or John's job, or Ayo's job, or A24's job. But to ask those questions, to me, means that you received exactly what I wanted you to receive. And your next step, I've been asked about, which is a compliment, and I receive it as such, but I've been asked, will there be an Opus 2? And to me, this is the sequel. This conversation, and every conversation after it, the conversation in the bathroom with the stranger as soon as you leave the theater, the conversation with your friends that you go with and your friend that lives across the country, the conversation with your friend in London. We open in London on March 14th, in Italy the week after. And like those conversations, that's the sequel. If there's another Opus movie, it'll be Opus 3. But the sequel is right now. And I really hope you will go to the theater, get active, and you have your part to play in the sequel of this film. And yeah, this is really big for me. This is really special for me. We should have scheduled like a 2-hour pod.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that because I literally was going to say that. I wish we had, but a part two.
The film is out for a couple weeks, and then we back in or something.
I love that idea.
Loved it. There's so many things that we didn't get to talk about, but I'll leave you with this. And I love what you said about the audience, because I interviewed an artist once who did these gigantic canvases and with stuff thrown in it, and they would like gigantic, the size of a wall. And I remember going to the studio and I asked him, I said, so how do you know when you're done? And he says, a piece is never done until someone else sees it.
Yeah.
So to me, you're right. I 100% agree. This is Opus 2, all these conversations we're having. And to those listening, you will absolutely be having conversations after seeing this movie.
And that's it for this episode of Brown and Black. We'd like to thank A24 and Mark Anthony Green for being on the show. And if you would like to support this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. Your help will allow us to be heard by many more people. You can follow our comments and opinions on @BrownBlack Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. We'll see you on the next episode
of Brown and Black.